We're here at Streaming Media West 2016. Sort of noisy around us. That's because it's during the reception time. This is almost live, and we've got Jeff Tapper here. Jeff's Senior VP of Engineering at Viacom. So Jeff, at Streaming Media East, you just gotten into the role there at Viacom. You've been in it now for a couple months. What are you doing?
So there's a lot of interesting things going on within our space at Viacom. So my team is largely responsible for building out the components that are used by all of the brands. Okay. So we build out the video players, the ad engines, the analytics, the authentication, the content management, any of the pieces that everyone can make use of. That's where our central team, we build those out. And then the brands are able to use those within their clients.
So you're keynoting tomorrow. What are you going to be talking about during the keynote?
So interestingly enough, I've found that it's really interesting and challenging to bring an engineering culture to a big media company. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about how to build an engineering culture within a big media company.
And you know what's fascinating is they would have originally had an engineering culture with FCC Class 1 engineers for traditional broadcast, but you're saying building the software engineering.
Exactly. Okay. Dealing with software engineering and try to work in the way that the big software companies work, and to bring that into a place where it's not traditionally been found. Okay.
So are you doing agile? Are you doing lean? I mean, how are you sort of handling?
We're an agile shop, and we've got within the central team about 12.5 different Scrum teams running in different directions. And so that's all really good. And we're trying to bring more modern engineering practices, try to build out our services as cloud native services and 12-factor apps and test-driven development.
So one of the things we've talked to a number of people here about is sort of the massive change in mentality of Flash over the last 9 months. And of course, Chrome 55 not going to support it. Inherently not going to support it. You have to click
putting
on
up
something.
Obstacles before
right.
Right.
Just like Safari does now under macOS Sierra.
Exactly.
What's your sense on sort of the continuity of Flash and how we transition to HTML5?
It's as you know, I was a longtime Flash developer and spent many years in the Flash world, and I will miss Flash. I think Flash was a great solution for its day, but its day has passed. Okay. It's time to move on. And oddly enough, Chrome's move with Chrome 55 makes my life a little bit easier.
And why is that?
So one of the challenges with all of our brands is getting them all to pick up the latest version of our components, the latest players and everything else. Because the old, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of mentality.
And therefore, if those are in Flash and people are having to move to HTML5.
All of the old ones are in Flash. We now have an HTML5 only solution that they will have to pick up for better or worse.
Interesting.
It's for better.
Yeah, sure, for better. So what are some of the non-engineering technical challenges that you see in the industry? HLS is something, that we all sort of saw that as a de facto standard, but it seems to be multiple flavors of HLS because of multiple flavors of Android, etc. Right. So what kinds of challenges like that are you seeing?
It's interesting. So we are today at Viacom an HLS everywhere shop, but I am working to extend that, and so my vision is that we will have HLS H.264 on the Apple platforms and VP9 Dash on most of the browsers and the Android platforms. Okay, and so we'll do HEVC where that's natively supported, but we don't have those decoders in any of the browsers yet.
So why VP9 Dash on Android when Android natively supports HLS?
Well, HLS VP9 doesn't work very well. And I want to get the savings, the smaller file size. I want to be able to get my 1080p file size down. And so I can't do that in the HLS ecosystem.
Right. Okay, very cool. What other challenges are you seeing?
Oh, it's constantly, trying to get ahead or at least catch up on VR and AR and IoT and, all of these new things. And so we've got little teams experimenting and trying to figure out what do they mean to us? How can we use them in a productive way? Right now it's mostly playing to, understand them. Sure. But they're clearly going to be a part of the ecosystem going forward. So the more we understand it, the better.
And you mentioned HEVC. Are you seeing traction in the industry for HEVC, or is it still 264's dominant, HEVC will come eventually.
I think it's very much that. There's still a lot of unknowns with HEVC. There's not a lot of devices that have decoders yet. The patent pool hasn't been worked out yet. And so people are hesitant to really invest in HEVC yet. Although, oddly enough, all the encoding firms, or all the encoding boxes, are happy to support HEVC, and nobody supports VP9 unless you're going to fire it up yourself in FFmpeg, which is what we're doing. I would love to get, any of the commercial encoders supporting VP9.
VP9, yeah, which is interesting because a number of them, VP7 was supported. What changed, and ultimately, yeah, who knows? So in terms of the show itself, what are the kinds of things you're looking to learn as well?
Well, so I sat in on a really interesting panel today from some of the Google engineers talking about next generation codecs, which largely started with VP9 and talking about the Open Media Alliance, or AOM, and which was very interesting. They also talked about their next generation audio codecs for 3D spherical audio. They had a much cooler term than that, but I forget what it was. But it's fascinating just to sort of see what else is out there, what's coming down the road that we should be thinking about.
Jeff, as always, great to have you here. This is Almost Live at Streaming Media West 2016 with Jeff Tapper, Senior VP of Engineering at Viacom.